residential campuses.
You know what they just said.
Person will mute themselves. Excellent. Anyway, so I've worked at a lot of different schools, but I'm really attracted to coming to Cal Maritime for this specialized program focused on maritime culture and leadership development and cadet success. And I think we have an amazing program here, and I think you've chosen a great institution to send your student. A little interesting fact about me is that I live on campus, so your student is more likely to get to know me than the more typical vice president for student affairs. They'll see me around campus, and I try to be very accessible to the students. And also my daughter is a sophomore in college, and so I'm pretty aware of the challenges that the last year has posed for you and your families and your students. She really struggled in the spring with the virtual learning, and so I have a lot of empathy for how you've negotiated this and your commitment to keeping for your students staying enrolled on campus. As Vice President of Student Affairs, I want you to know that we are really committed to your students' success and their health and well-being. We have a team of staff that have been working hard to prepare the campus. The other folks on the call have been part of our health and safety committee and have important, things to share with you around how we've been planning to make sure that we do our best to keep the students and the faculty and the staff safe. But we're also here for regular college, developments, hurdles and challenges that are going to arise during their time at Cal Maritime. So please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or my staff when things come up. We're also here for crisis management around mental health issues or medical issues or family emergencies, and can really help make the appropriate referrals. The one thing that I would ask before you send your student off is to really have a discussion with them around expectations around their health and safety around COVID and using appropriate PPE and social distancing. And we're really going to try to instill an atmosphere of accountability for each person to keep the campus safe. And we're hoping that you'll have those conversations before your student comes so that we all can really do everything we can to make sure we can make it hopefully through the semester and keep everybody safe. And so I'm happy to share the floor with the other partners here that have been part of the Health and Safety Committee and other aspects of preparing for the fall. Thank you.
Kristen, you're up next.
Sure. My name is Kristen Tenner. I'm the Associate Dean of Student Engagement, and that includes a lot of elements outside of the classroom. So residence life, student activities, community engagement, and as Vice President McMahon mentioned, we're really committed to being able to offer engagement activities, but in a safe, supportive way for the whole campus community. A little bit about myself. I have been at Cal Maritime just over 5 years. I started here as a company commandant, so working specifically with the engineers, and got to go out and sail on 3 of our training cruises, wore khaki for a while, and then transitioned into this role because my background is completely student affairs and higher education. I don't live on campus. I do live locally, but I do participate in the on-call after-hours duty rotation. So if anything happens after hours, usually I get a phone call letting me know to make sure that we have the proper follow-up and proper folks are notified. I think that's about it for me as a whole.
Next, we have Dr. Miller. She does need to hop off at 4:30, so if it's okay, please put your questions for the Student Health Center in chat sooner than later. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Rebecca Miller. I came to the Maritime Academy as a physician for cruise. I've worked with a lot of physicians who did it as well at one of the local hospitals and said it was a great experience, and it absolutely was one of the best things I've ever done. And I've done 3 subsequent cruises since then. Would have been on this year if it happened. And it's a wonderful experience for all the cadets and everyone involved. And then after my first year as the ship's physician, I slid into teaching the STCW requirement for the MT majors for medical skills, and we have a great time with that. It's a real joy to teach. And in the summer here, our outgoing chair of student health left, and I'm kind of filling in between while we get rolling for the fall semester until the next full-time person comes on in, and it's been great. We're certainly here for any of your questions. If there's anything specific with your students you want to discuss with us, you can always call the medical center, and I'll put the phone number up.
Thank you. I'm gonna unmute everyone right now, so the next speaker will have to unmute themselves from here on. All right. So our next speaker is AVP of Academic Affairs, Graham Benton.
Good afternoon. My name is Graham Benton. I'm the Associate Provost at Cal Maritime. I think I'm the only representative here from Academic Affairs. I've got a number of divisions in my portfolio, including admissions and the registrar and financial aid. And I have a number of other obligations and duties that primarily revolve around the integrity and the rigor of our academic programs. But the reason I think I was invited to this particular meeting is that I am the co-chair of the Cal Maritime Health and Safety Task Force. And so we've been meeting at least 5 to 10 hours a week every week since the world sort of came off its rails sometime in March. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all might have about our preparations for the fall term. So thank you.
Thank you. And next and last guest is David Taliaferro.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Taliaferro, the Commandant of Cadets here at Cal Maritime. I've been here for 2 years now, and came over from the United States Merchant Marine Academy, where I served as the Deputy Commandant there and the Director for Leadership and Ethics. My educational background is I am still a struggling doctoral student at Columbia University. I don't like to talk about it very much right now, but I'm also a graduate of their master's program in organizational psychology. My professional background is a mix between the maritime industry as a U.S. Coast Guard licensed third mate and a military officer in the United States Army. And so I bring all that to bear as we look to help co-create the leadership laboratory that is the Corps of Cadets. And been touching base with a lot of parents, a lot of your cadets that are coming in to hopefully get the logistics right for those who are coming onto campus this Thursday, and touching base to just make sure that if you have any questions that we're doing our best to be responsive there. So looking forward to a great year. And sort of a side note, we had orientation leaders here on campus today who are prepping up. Tomorrow they'll be doing a big heavy lift of logistics to get prepared for Thursday, and they're all very excited to meet all of your cadets.
Thank you. So we have our first set of questions popping up. This would be for Graham. Will students be allowed to leave and return to campus? If so, can they work off campus? And final question, with limitations on food, will they be allowed to cook in their rooms?
I get the first one, and it's like a 3-parter, huh?
Yeah.
I might defer the question of cooking in the rooms to maybe Kristen can answer that one. In terms of students going on and off campus, I first maybe want to preface this by saying Throughout the summer and into the fall, the Health and Safety Task Force has been governed by three essential principles. The number one is the health and safety of our students and the campus community. Number two is the institutional mission of the institution. And number three, things always change and are most likely to do so based on external factors. And so right now, the way that we have things configured for the fall is that students who are living on campus will be allowed to leave campus to run various errands. They need to pick up medicines from the pharmacy. They need to get something from the grocery store. If they have jobs, I believe they'll be permitted to go to those jobs. That's one of the allowances that we have made for the fall. We ask that students, when they're off campus, respect the same rules and regulations that we have on campus, the proper wearing of your mask, the hygiene and the sanitation. The short answer is yes, they will be allowed to go off campus if they are living on campus for the fall term. We are not in a lockdown situation here. In terms of cooking in the dorm rooms, I might punt that one to Kristen.
Yeah, I will say as well that every cadet that's been here and that will be here, they all sign and acknowledge a cadet agreement acknowledging our health and safety practices of that phase. So they initial next to every single point, and then they sign the bottom electronically. And we have a master tracking sheet where they're not clear to go to classes until that's signed. So it's a big deal. And they're also not allowed to go to classes until they've participated in the health and safety orientation, where we do explicitly say that while you are allowed to go off campus, this isn't a prison. Every time you do go off campus, we recognize that there is some element of risk. So being really mindful of where they go and that they only go off for essential purposes, so that everybody knows that we're all doing the same thing. In terms of the residence halls, I'll go a little bit out of order because I'm monitoring the chat as well. They will, if they're here for phase 3 or this current finishing of the spring, cadets, almost all of them will not have to move. There's a couple of exceptions where folks have requested upperclassmen to live in a stateroom on board the Golden Bear, which isn't available until the start of the fall. So those ones will move. But the vast majority of the 300 folks that are here now for this phase or have been in and out will not have to move rooms. If they are going to move rooms, they've already been notified. So they would know that. In terms of cooking and whatnot, the dining options will be different in that they can't go into the dining center and eat, but they are able to go to the same number of meals they were when they left in the spring, and they just get to go items. They can get as much as they want in the different to-go items, and they have been giving them plastic bags like when you go shopping, and some of them leave with like 4 containers full and some snacks and water and things like that. So the quantity of food should not actually be any different. And in terms of cooking in the residence halls, the reason folks can't cook in them now is for safety reasons, fire, all of that. And while COVID's changed a lot of things, it hasn't changed fire safety. So unfortunately, we won't have additional access or allowances for cooking, but they will still have the access to food. Vanita, do you want me to just roll down and answer all the ones about housing?
Let's stay in order if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have a question about classrooms and labs being regularly wiped and disinfected. Graham, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yes, we do have protocol that is designed for different individual specific instructional spaces. And this has been done in consultation not only with CDC guidelines and OSHA guidelines, but also with our individual faculty. And so every instructional space is equipped with special wipes, with a kit of cleaning materials. Our janitorial and facility staff have been instructed in how to wipe down the different surfaces. We have a protocol on campus, which is clean it hello, clean it goodbye, so that when students do come into their classroom, they are asked to wipe down their own particular workspace. We had a couple of interesting and nuanced issues with some of the more sensitive instrumentation on the ship in their laboratories, which couldn't necessarily be cleaned with the sort of spray bottles and disinfectants that we had in other instructional spaces. So with different consultants, we have made allowances for how to clean those particular laboratory materials and instruments. The instructional spaces have been cleared for social distancing as well. We've moved into larger spaces when we can, and have put up different sneeze guards and plexiglass in other spaces as well. I hope that is a sufficient answer. I might make a plug for the health and safety plan, which covers a lot of this material. That has undergone a number of different iterations from our instructional phases over the summer. The last one is in the final stages of approval, should be put onto our COVID page sometime over the weekend. And that should have sections on our cleaning capacities and guidelines.
Thank you, Graham. Next, I'm going to take a question from Kate for Dr. Miller. How are new cases going to be handled on campus?
Okay, so first of all, we have an app that's going to go live here in a few days for every student who's interacting on the campus in any way to screen themselves using the CDC guidelines. And then that's going to be logged. And if anyone has concerning symptoms, the cadets are going to contact the health center. Upon examination by us, if we think they need to be COVID tested, we will get the COVID test done and sent, and then that student will be isolated. Either they'll be in a room with their own bathroom, or if they don't already have that, we'll move them to one of our isolation rooms. Of course, this is for all people who have minor symptoms. Anybody who's experiencing any kind of shortness of breath or more severe symptoms will, of course, be referred to nearest emergency department.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Since your time is limited, do you have any other tips for parents or any other information that might be useful to them in case you pop off before anything else pops up in chat?
I just think reiterating with your students before they come back how really efficacious the social distancing and hand washing and mask wearing is. If we can get that reinforced at any way at all times possible, I think it's really useful. So far, I've been here all summer and a good number of students are back already, and I think they're doing a great job already. But of course, part of the college experience is socializing. So just kind of encouraging your students to limit that as much as possible and socially distance when they are socializing with each other.
Thank you. The next question is from Jean. Either Dr. McMahon or Kristen can take this. During the fires last year, we were given a refund for room and board. We have not heard about any refunds from spring. What is happening concerning the cost for room and board?
So for the spring, it's a very specialized and personalized amount. Cadets should have received something back in March or April, noting that they had a the process for the daily rate and how and when refunds would be issued. those cadets that had no face-to-face classes to complete have been issued their refunds. And so they got a check in the mail, and that piece is taken care of. For those that had to come for phase 1, which was our graduating seniors, the dockside steaming, or the current phase of face-to-face that we're in now, it's all dependent on the amount of time that they've been here for those phases, because this is technically the end of the spring term. So for those that are returning and say you only needed 2 days of class, and you were here for 2 days, you would get refunded a different amount of money than those that needed the full 3 weeks. So every cadet was instructed to email both Residence Life and the housing refunds email prior to departure. And then once we have confirmed their departure, our refunds area works with our accounting office to close out their spring account and then process and cut a check. So if your cadet is still here, their refund hasn't been processed. If they've left, it is probably in process, because the process from when they depart to when the check is able to be cut is between 1.5 weeks to 2 weeks, depending on the day that they leave, because we only cut checks 1 day a week. So since we cut checks on Thursday, if they left on a Friday, it would be a little bit longer than if they left, say, on a Tuesday or something like that. If cadets stay for the duration, so they came in for phase 3 and they were here the entire time, then they won't get a refund, because it would be the exact same as if they were here for the entirety of the spring term.
That's complicated, but thank you for explaining it so well to all of us. Next question is, where did I lose it? Microwaves and fridges are still in dorms with the exception of Golden Bear. Will students be provided extra cleaning and sanitizing materials for frequent touch items? Graham?
I'm sorry, if the question was directed specifically towards cleaning on the Bear, we will make accommodations we'll make sure that there's proper cleaning materials placed in rooms and in instructional spaces and in common areas. We have a number of communications that are going out to students, and they're also listed, say, in the classrooms. If for some reason some material is not there, who to contact and how to get it. This is generally done not through the students themselves, but through the faculty and through the staff. But if there's something amiss, if a student sees that perhaps there is something that didn't get cleaned, we also have information posted as to who to get in contact so that we can address those concerns. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. Lynn wanted to know who she can contact. She seems to think her son's schedule is incorrect with overlapping classes and fewer days than what was anticipated. So any suggestions on who the student can reach out to for those schedule changes?
Sure. If the student has access to PeopleSoft, I would go in there and contact your advisor. You should have 2 advisors, your academic advisor, who is a faculty member, who should be able to help you with that. We also have professional advisors, and they can also help with those. Those emails are located on the registrar's website, and I think on a case-by-case basis, that would probably be the best advice that I have at this time.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is from Kathy. My son is a senior and was not able to go on cruise last year or this year. How will those be made up? We can put this in the parking lot if you want to address it later or in another way.
I think right now we have to maybe go into a holding pattern. There's a number of students who were impacted because we just didn't feel at the time it was safe enough to take our ship out during the summer. And so there are still plans for how we're going to accommodate those who were not able to go on cruise. And of course, those students don't go away. They will just, you know, be sort of pushed into a group of those who are expecting cruise on the Golden Bear this upcoming year. And so there's a number of different plans and contingencies that are being made. But I think, as everyone knows, it's tough enough to try and anticipate what things will look like in 4 weeks from now, let alone 4 or 6 months from now. And so I would just ask for your patience with that. You're not alone on that. And we're looking at a number of different plans that we can put into place. And again, using those governing principles, the health and safety of our students, coupled with the perseverance of our intellectual mission here. So just stay tuned, I guess.
Thank you, Graham. A follow-on question from Gail is, will this delay in cruise affect Coast Guard testing in January?
I don't have the specifics to that. If there is Coast Guard testing in January, it could very well delay that, but I would like to defer to the Division of STCW regulations and Coast Guard requirements. Vanita, if you are giving your email out in this particular Zoom meeting and you get people who ask questions, feel free to send them my way, and I can get back to you with more information. Or I'll just put my email down here too.
Thank you for reminding me, Graham. My email is now in there. Please send your questions that we're not able to answer or defer for later, and I will forward your email to the correct department. Next question is, what should we know regarding our student and remote learning? Are there other Zoom calls regarding this specifically? Is there a specific website or Facebook page relating to this particular topic?
Again, if a student has classes that they're taking face-to-face and they're taking classes in an alternative modality, I would ask that the student goes to our learning management system, that they look at their courses in Brightspace, and they locate those. All of our faculty who are teaching online courses will be using the LMS, the Learning Management System, for the facilitation of those courses. And I think that's the best way to get information in advance of the course, whether they're asynchronous, synchronous, or some kind of hybrid in between. And if your student has issues with Brightspace, they can talk to someone on campus and we can point them in the right direction.
A couple of things I will add for remote learning is the experience that our folks had in the spring semester when we transitioned to online courses is not what they should expect to have in this term. Our faculty have spent all summer learning how to teach better online rather than transitioning in the course of 2 days. And so we have a lot higher expectations. Faculty are pretty excited about, what they've learned and being able to put it into practice. We also understand that there are, different barriers that happen with being remote. So I think our biggest ask is that if your cadet is experiencing any issues, like Graham mentioned, with either our learning management system, Brightspace, or there's issues with, say, internet or things like that, just encourage them to reach out. We do have some programs to help with internet or supplies, and we want to be able to give folks the same experience or as close to the same experience virtually as we can in person. There will also be a lot of virtual programming, social interacting activities. Just because they're at home and taking courses online, they still have access to everything that is Cal Maritime. So our counseling services, all that type of stuff, our student activities, community engagement even has virtual opportunities. So there's lots of ways for them to continue to be involved. But my biggest takeaway, I think, for you all is that the experience they had in the spring is not what they should expect to have in the fall.
Thank you. Next question, again, likely for Graham. If the student tests positive, what is the protocol Cal Maritime will follow with others that may have been in contact with the infected student?
Sure, I think that's a question for Dr. Miller, but I guess she's not on the call anymore. So I will say that the protocol that Cal Maritime is following is in line with the CDC recommendations, some of which have changed over the past 12 days. And so for Cal Maritime, every student who is coming to campus is required to have a COVID test. And if that COVID test is positive, that student will be placed into isolation on campus for a prescribed amount of time, which is 10 days. That student will communicate with our health center. And at the conclusion of those 10 days, if there has been zero symptoms exhibited with that test, and there has been at least 24 hours without fever, then there will be the health center will make a recommendation for that student to enter into classrooms again. There has been a discussion about if these are STCW courses and what happens if a student misses a number of class times, which are required for graduation, but we're going to handle those on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. I have a question from Lisa. Is there a plan for students who were not able to return to face-to-face to complete their lab classes in the fall?
I guess that's to me again. Lisa, this might be a question that your daughter or son should ask their advisor, and maybe even the professional advisor. From what I understand, this is a case where we had our face-to-face instruction over the summer to complete the spring term, but your child was not able to return to campus for that particular instruction. And if that's the case, I think we'd want to work on a curricular roadmap with their advisor and their dean and the chair to make sure that we can find what needs to happen and get them on track.
Thank you. Max is asking, Vallejo weather dictates or indicates 94 degrees on Friday and a few more 90-degree days. When the students have to quarantine for 2 days until their tests come back negative, do the rooms have air conditioning? Would a fan be enough? Kristen?
So the rooms at Maritime North have air conditioning, but the rest of the residence halls do not. We are located right on the water in the Bay Area where you don't need air conditioning. Or at least once upon a time didn't. But all of our residence halls are located on a hillside that gets direct breeze from the waterfront. I definitely would suggest a fan, but they should have enough air circulation and whatnot for those first few days that they're here. And the rest of the term. We're also, if they're testing with us on campus, we have 48 hours is our maximum window for getting their tests back. So that is our, the longest it could possibly be. We're hoping for sooner than that.
Thank you. This next one might be for you again. We have a senior who, should my senior have received a check in time for COVID testing? He hadn't received any information as of yesterday. Should he already have received his housing assignment? I don't have a name on that, just as iPhone.
Yeah, so in terms of room assignments, all cadets should have gotten an email, all on-campus residents should have gotten an email yesterday saying that would come out today. We're playing this giant game of Tetris as folks figure out their academic schedules, where if they end up fully online and don't end up on campus, then we're working to fill those rooms. So the assignments are slated to come out today. And if they signed up to take a COVID test on August 13th, they were notified of their time and their check-in instructions. If they have not signed up for a time or signed up for a COVID test on campus this Friday, then there is the general assumption that they are coming on the 16th and providing their own test results to our Student Health Center.
Thank you. Sandy wants to know, given that COVID situation is highly stressful for all and even more for college students, will the gym be available for students to de-stress and any other non-academic de-stressing activities? She's concerned about mental health. So maybe a couple people want to respond to that.
Absolutely, that's a very real concern. The gym is ready to be open and standing by. However, with the current restrictions in the state of California, we can't have the physical workout rooms open. However, we are planning for a wide variety of outdoor recreation type activities. So our new athletic director is going to be sending out a survey to all cadets once they get back, asking, what types of workout classes would you like to see? Would you like yoga on the waterfront? Do you want outdoor Zumba? So those types of things, because the physical piece is definitely a component of the mental health. We're also doing de-stress events, both in person and virtually, even for those that aren't available, with our counseling psychological services, with our peer health educators, and our exciting addition of the makerspace. And then all of our normal campus support services, activities, and kind of social areas are still doing things of that nature, just in different formats. So as you can guess, anything that can be outside will be outside, weather permitting. Certain things will have maximum capacities or require RSVPs, and we'll be utilizing surveys, obviously, for what folks want to see or ideas that we haven't come up with. But there will be opportunities for them to engage with one another, both in person and online.
While we're at this topic of the PIAC, swim workouts, is the pool going to be available, or is that still, we're standing by on that?
Graham, have you heard an official yes or no? I know that our new athletic director was putting in for that to be made acceptable.
The pool has been granted some exceptions because part of it is part of our educational programming, that there's a swim assessment that needs to be done for some of the incoming freshmen. But as far as I know, we are still on standby with the rest of many other universities and other institutions in the state of California as to how to properly use our pool. I can tell you in our health and safety plan that we added about 30 pages to it just concerning the PIAC and the pool. And so we have a very sophisticated plan in place. We're just waiting for approval for that.
Thank you. We have our first question for the Commandant. What will the Corps of Cadets look like this year? Will there be formation 3 days a week? If so, how do students that are 100% remote participate? Kim wants to know.
Yeah, great question, Kim. So with the governor's recent guidance that came out yesterday or 2 days ago, we've had to make a few adjustments to the plan that we submitted to the Chancellor's office. We will be having formation. It'll be in smaller numbers than we normally do, and it'll be on Bodner Field instead of the quad, so we can space out a little bit more. In terms of the virtual piece, we'll be testing some of that later this week to make sure that we've got it all set up correctly. But we will have a virtual option We will be playing with the frequency as well to make sure, again, that we're able to reduce not just the physical gathering piece, but the movement inside the res halls as people try and get ready and utilize the facilities there. We're trying not to create a traffic jam. So bottom line is we've got some plans in place for making sure the core remains intact. The other piece of the core that I think is worth mentioning is that our leadership development program will also be offered in virtual format this year. And so we'll be spinning up some additional training for our folks here in the next couple of weeks. And then we anticipate making that announcement and launching that in early October. So we're excited about that. I think that'll be a nice little offering as well too. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So back to Kristen. Sandy is suggesting that outdoor activities are great for now, but the weather will change soon. Is there anything else that's being planned for when the weather changes?
Absolutely. We are looking at our different gyms on campus. So we have our older gym in Mayo Hall and the physical gym up at our PE center. So those obviously allow for greater social distancing and the ability to host programs in there. We also, our academic schedule does conclude with face-to-face instruction after Thanksgiving break. So we will definitely be getting into the colder times, and there will be some rain and things like that. But we likely won't have as many opportunities or need programs in person once we hit that December timeframe.
Thank you, Kristen. I have a question from Max. Are you following Solano County COVID restrictions? No indoor dining, no gyms, no opening up until county restrictions lift, or are you trying to get special exemptions since the campus is like a bubble and hopefully less at risk than in the general population?
You want me to jump in here, Kristen? I think for the most part, we are following the Solano County COVID restrictions. We're in close contact with the health supervisor of Solano County, and we're adhering to those. We are looking at different bubbles, but as we said, it's not a prison, it's not a lockdown campus. Our faculty do go home to their families at night, as do our staff. Our students are permitted to leave, and so we're taking every precaution that we can on campus. And we're not bound just by the restrictions of Solano County, but also by the guidelines that have been given to us by the Chancellor's Office of the California State University with our return to instruction report that we had submitted and that was approved in July, as well as the governor's guidelines for state of California higher ed institutions. And so those are the guidelines that we're following.
Thank you, Graham. I just wanted to invite the parents to take a look at this webpage. We've been putting some other Zoom calls that we've had with the incoming parents with very similar questions and answers. Also have some other information available if you're interested in just going through the web page. I've added the page URL there. I have another question from Debbie. Will career fairs still occur in the virtual environment, allowing posted times per company so cadets can ask questions about various companies, or is it just canceled?
I can share that, it's too early to know right now, but I'm sure we will find a way to offer a career fair, whether it's in person or virtual. I'm confident of that.
Thank you. Next question is from Kathy. So am I understanding correctly from Kristen's comment that after Thanksgiving, there will be no more face-to-face classes?
That is correct. They will all shift to the virtual realm when we leave for Thanksgiving.
So classes will be, there will be classes till the Wednesday before Thanksgiving all the way, just so parents
Yes.
know. And I had a question earlier from Sandy who wanted to know how online testing will work without proctors.
There's a variety of different methods that we have and different instruments that we are looking at, some of which are unique to Cal Maritime, some of which have been purchased throughout the system. There's different online programs like Respondus and others, depending on the course itself. There's different softwares that are being used, and so some of them are rather sophisticated, and so I would leave that up to the individual instructors as to what particular software and platforms they're using for their testing purposes.
Thank you, Graham. Just wanted to kind of put out there that our regular services like disability services support and tutoring, academic support will be available online. Students will have access to an app called Navigate that will allow them to make appointments with tutors so that they can get that academic support. Is that the right name of the app, Navigate?
It's the Passport Mobile, but it also says Navigate on there as well. Yes.
Yeah, and all of our services are available for students who are virtual, including counseling. So they do Zoom counseling with students, and the leadership program is virtual. There are a lot of opportunities to students to stay engaged this fall if they're at home or not on campus.
Thank you. I have a question from Debbie. When will the students get information on this new app?
So the Triad is going to send, which are our top 3 cadet leaders, they're going to send out all the details and the information once our returners have returned. But it is actually accessible without an app. We've been using the passport system on campus for the last year, maybe 2 years. This is just making it more mobile friendly and connecting them with different resources, so that if you doesn't have a smartphone or doesn't feel comfortable downloading an app, that they can still access all of the same information and services via their computer.
And I have another question from Debbie. Will there be any in-person tutoring? Are we going to have any in-person tutoring, Kristen or Graham?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I would just say not at this time. I mean, part of the protocol for the Health and Safety Task Force was to limit the kind of engagement that we needed with social distancing. Certainly if the environment changes, if CDC, OSHA, county guidelines change, we can always revisit that. But we were starting out with an abundance of caution, and we don't have any face-to-face tutoring at this time.
Thank you. We just have a few minutes left, and I always like to open it up to parents who were for some reason not able to type in their questions and would like to unmute to ask a question now. This is the chance to do that. Are there any parents who'd like to ask a question?
Yeah, hi, this is Sandy. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to ask, trying to understand the social distancing situation where you're explaining that one-on-one tutoring, which you could have, social distancing parameters met, are not going to happen, but yet you're going to have formations. I'm just having trouble with that.
I guess maybe I can ask about that. I mean, I think that there were different campus practices that we thought we could probably deliver in an online format, including, you know, a lot of our courses which are delivered online, and that we could do a decent job with our tutoring center in this particular format. Whereas something like watchstanding, which is requirement of part of the degrees, or even formation, is something which maybe I could punt to David, is almost impossible to do in a Zoom format. Whereas a one-on-one tutoring session seemed to us to be a safer option.
David?
Yeah, we're also doing formation outdoors. So, I mean, that might be a mitigating factor for us. I know, and again, with the new governor's guidelines, our numbers are going to be very, very small, but we'll be spaced out all over the rugby field.
So could tutoring be considered to be held outdoors then?
I can take notes here, and I will we'll bring this back to the Health and Safety Task Force. Absolutely. And if this is something which needs more scrutiny, by all means, we can look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Please invite your student to stay in touch with anyone in Student Affairs and check in on what the outcome of your question is once he or she's on campus. I have a couple of other questions that have popped up. The online classes after Thanksgiving will be just until Christmas break, and the school will resume on campus next semester. Is that right?
As far as we can predict what's going to happen in January, that's the plan.
Can students leave their stuff in storage after Thanksgiving if they will be returning in January? Kristen?
Typically not, but if there was an extenuating circumstance, we wait until January. If you're leaving over the winter break term, your room will be the same when you return in the spring. So you can leave your belongings in your room. There's no need to store it elsewhere. We just ask that you take any perishable items, take your laptop with you, and then unplug your mini fridge.
Gail wants to thank everyone for time, effort, and patience. You're welcome, Gail. Max wants to know, since a lot of the classes are so small, why not outdoor classes for some instead of Zoom?
I think that's an option that we looked at. We were bound by a report that we had given to the Chancellor's office, which was a mandate from the CSU asking that those classes which couldn't go online be sort of configured in face-to-face, and those that could go online should be put onto line. And so because we're a unique and specialized campus of the CSU, that we have a number of these assessments that have to be done face-to-face. That's why we were bringing the students back. We were invested in advancing them in class and getting through the pandemic in this way. But just because a class is small didn't necessarily mean that we were allowed to hold it on campus.
Right, I just want to sort of build on what Graham has shared. In California, we're part of the CSU system, and Chancellor White really said, for health and safety of our 500,000 plus students, we're going to go all virtual. So everything that we're doing here is an exception that's been part of a special plan that we have proposed in guidelines, and it's been reviewed by experts. But what they really wanted is all classes to be virtual unless they needed to be in person, face-to-face. So it's a little different way of looking at it versus could we? Well, we probably could. But we're defaulting towards de-densifying and less in-person activities for the health and safety of the community.
Thank you, Dr. McMahon. I have one last question from Lisa. Is there a reduction in fees for food and housing for fall semester since they're leaving early?
I'll respond for now. We are not looking at any reduction in fees for the fall semester because we're offering everything that a student needs here and the adequate amount of hours times for the classes. So the entire CSU system is also not looking at any fee waivers or reductions in fees because the operations of the university remain, and in some ways are even higher due to our desire to have a really engaged virtual learning experience.
Thank you. Those were all our questions. Debbie says, thank you, Maritime staff. We are grateful for the program and for your tireless effort to get the semester underway. Another Debbie says, thank you all. My son knows how lucky he is to be at Cal Maritime and to get to resume his program. Thank you for making it happen. So bunch of thank yous coming in. We are at 4:59. I'd like to thank all the parents, first of all, for coming back to Cal Maritime and joining us today. And of course, our guests who took the time to join everyone and answered some of these tough questions. Thank you and have a great evening. And if you have any questions, please send them my way. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you for trusting us with your son and daughter.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.